I'm a no voter on that spending bill unless there are conditions that require ICE to go to a judge to get a warrant, as well as other kinds of constraints, the use of masks, the non-identification, the unmarked cars. These police tactics, secret police, totalitarian tactics need to be stopped.
That's Da Nang Dick, Richard Blumenthal, the Democrat senator who didn't serve in Vietnam. He lied about it repeatedly and pretended that he was a Vietnam War hero because he's a lion Sacagawea, and now he's lying about everything else. They're trying to start a civil war in the United States against the federal government. Da Nang Dick, Stolen Valor Dick. Well, very good and happy Friday to you. Maybe the Democrat Party should be banned from American politics. The party of Jefferson Davis and the Confederate States of America. The first American Civil War, the Democrat Party created the White Knights of the KKK, every Jim Crow law. Now they snuff out 40% of black lives in the womb whenever they can. Harvest the organs. They'd make Dr. Yusuf Mengele very proud, very proud. On his rotisserie in hell, he's blowing kisses at the Democrat Party. Speaking of rotisserie in hell, the Democrats have a member of the House of Representatives that is kind of a hoot in a demented way, Representative Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine Crockett. And she posted a video of herself a while back declaring that because President Trump is in the White House, that there are all kinds of random lynchings of black people going on in the South, using nooses to hang black people from trees, which is, of course, a Democrat Party tradition. They're the party of lynching black people. They're the party of the bullwhip and the plantation and slavery. They're the Democrat Party. They're a party of child sex abuse and protecting illegal alien child sex abusers. The Democrat Party, they're not on the side of civilization at all. They're on the side of mental illness. But here's Jasmine Crockett, and it turns out I don't know how this video was hidden from public view for so long. But it is pretty amazing that she gets away with this stuff and nobody even notices. Here is Jasmine Crockett. It was actually November 21st. Is that when it was? November 21st. And she posted a video of herself explaining that it's terrible being a black person in America because of all the lynchings that are going on. And those terrible Republicans who actually were the Union in the Civil War and freed the slaves and the Emancipation Proclamation, and the Democrats fought the Civil War to keep their slaves. And it was states' rights. Yeah, the states' right to keep their slaves. And the Democrat Party, the party of the bullwhip and Robert Mapplethorpe, but that's another bullwhip story for another day. And here's Jasmine Crockett explaining that because of President Trump, they're doing away with laws about white hate and white supremacy, because that's what we see all the time. And it's the Democrat white hate attacking churches and everything else. But never mind that. Here is Democrat Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas.
Honestly, they're about to outlaw the idea of white supremacy and white hate. Like, they are about to be like, oh, that's not a thing. Forget the fact that you're talking about getting rid of, like, the classification for nooses in a time in which we have seen these random black bodies be strung up down south.
That's what's happening.
Seemingly at a time in which you're back in office, because what you do is you embolden the hate. You embolden everybody to take off their hoods. That is what he has done. He is the one that is producing this violence.
Nathan Bedford Forrest, a statewide leader of the Democrat Party, created the White Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. The last Klansman in Congress was Democrat Senator Robert Byrd from West Virginia, who founded the KKK in West Virginia. It didn't exist before the Democrat Robert Byrd came along, and he was a colleague and friend of Joe Biden's in the United States Senate. The White Hoods are Democrat wear, Jasmine Crockett, you low IQ bimbo, you very silly, ignorant person. And isn't that amazing? But wait, there are apparently the news media is not reporting about all the lynchings going on in the South of black people hanging from trees with nooses, a Democrat Party practice, and not a Republican Party practice, but the Democrat, and this is the Democrats' mental illness, inciting this race hatred. And what are they outlawing? What did she say? White hate laws? And whatever the hell that means. I don't know what a white hate law is, but nobody's doing away with any of your idiotic fantasies. I don't think there are. I think white hate is pretty much like black hate. 9,000 black people will be murdered in the United States this year. Maybe you should care about that for a minute. But no, George Floyd burned the country to the ground. But there it is. And so they're doing away with white hate, and whatever she says, there's a law about nooses, and they're doing away with that or something. And then the reason for that is so they can have more lynchings all over the South of black people.
You're talking about getting rid of like the classification for nooses in a time in which we have seen these random black bodies be strung up down south.
Yeah, because that's happening all over the place. She's a member of Congress in the United States of America. She should be deported to Somalia, too. Honestly, the Democrat Party is violently, criminally insane. The mental dwarfism is almost too much to believe, isn't it? Yes, it is. Your Democrat Party. And by the way, if you'd like to talk to President Trump about something, you incredible idiot, you astonishing idiot, maybe you should talk about the front page of the New York Times today. Maybe the front page of the New York Times, because the front page of the New York Times today is quite remarkable. What's behind the staggering drop in the murder rate? ? No one knows for sure. That's the headline at the New York Times. A decline in homicides across the country was a stunning reversal after crime rose during the pandemic. And that's because of the communist Chinese, the pandemic. You know all about the pandemic. Isn't that amazing? Yes, it is. Really, the New York Times, the murder rate drops to the lowest level since 1900 across major U.S. cities nationwide. The Council on Criminal Justice, they collect data, and their data shows that 11 of 13 crime categories decreased, including homicides. And the New York Times, very reluctant. They're like, well, we got to fix this. We got to get homicide back up to our usual traditional levels. We can't have the lowest homicide rate in 125 years in the United States. Trump might get credit for it. So they're going to go firebomb some Jews or something. Fox News reporting, screw the New York Times, murders across the U.S. dropped last year to a historic low, according to researchers, marking a dramatic turnaround after violent crime surged in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic, and as left-wing leaders espoused ideas like defunding their police departments and releasing repeat offenders without bail. But why would they do that? Well, because under their policies, we have more murder. We have more terrible everything. We have more rape. We have more kidnappings. We have more terrible everything. But never mind that, because, Democrats, they want more. And they know how to bring about more murders and stuff, too, since they commit most of the murders. That's for sure. That's an unambiguous truth. Jasmine Crockett is a screaming shrew with the brain of a ferret. No insult to ferrets and ferret lovers. But isn't that amazing? The Council on Criminal Justice, which we have to abbreviate, the CCJ. We got to abbreviate everything. Their report, they weighed crime statistics from 40 cities that have reported monthly data for the past 8 years, found that 11 of 13 crime categories dropped in 2025 compared to 2024. 9 of them dropped by 10% or more, including homicides, which saw a 21% drop. How could that is statistically impossible? Crime stats remain very steady throughout time, a 21% drop in 1 year. President Trump promised to bring back law and order to the United States of America. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt wrote on X on Thursday, along with a chart from the Council on Criminal Justice showing the country saw its lowest homicide rate since the year 1900. That's 125 years earlier. This is what happens when you have a president who fully mobilizes federal law enforcement to arrest violent criminals and the worst of the worst, illegal aliens. The Democrats are out in the street sacrificing their lives, like idiot Renee Good, who crashed her car into a federal law enforcement agent and got shot in the face, and she became a hero of the Democrat Party because they're all tardo. And Trump had campaigned on heavily reining in crime, especially migrant crime, and crime in the nation's capital dropped notably last year after the president took a hands-on role. He later ordered federal involvement in other cities. Now, isn't that amazing? Of 35 cities covered by the CCJ report, Denver saw the largest decline in homicides at 41%. A 41% drop in homicides in Denver, which was, you may remember that where was that? Aurora, Colorado, where the Tren de Aragua gangs were taking over entire apartment complexes, plural. And ABC News' Martha Raddatz said, that was J.D. Vance, right? So what? It's just, come on. It's only a handful of apartment complexes.
The incidents were limited to a handful of apartment complexes and a handful of problems.
Only, Martha, do you hear yourself? Only a handful of apartment complexes in America were taken over by Venezuelan gangs, and Donald Trump is the problem?
Honestly. So, listen, Denver saw the biggest drop in homicides, 41%. Washington, D.C. and Omaha tied for second, a 40% drop in homicide. Washington, D.C., I live here, 40% drop in homicide. I think that's a good thing. Democrats think it's something they've got to fix and get the homicide rates back up, and they will. Los Angeles, Buffalo, New York, Albuquerque, Long Beach, Atlanta, Baltimore, and Chicago all saw declines, listen, of more than 30% in homicides. 3 of the 35 cities did see an increase in homicides. 16% in Little Rock, 2% in Fort Worth, 1% increase in Milwaukee, all of it because of Democrats. Violent crime as a whole fell to its lowest levels since 2019, according to the report. Car thefts fell by 27%. Burglary and shoplifting each dropped by double digits. Isn't that amazing? According to similar data from the Major Cities Chiefs Association Violent Crime Survey, which referenced 67 of the largest police agencies throughout the United States, the year concluded with an approximate 20% decrease in homicides nationwide. Now, the Democrats are going to fix that. They're going to get the homicide rates back up because they're violent and criminally insane. Other than that, they're perfectly normal. Well, I mean, including that, they're perfectly normal Democrats, honestly. Yes, sir. The FBI countrywide statistics for 2025 have not yet been released, but are expected to show similar results. So thank you, President Trump. How many thousands of lives are saved by that alone? And the Democrat Party, they want more Tren de Aragua, more MS-13 in your daughter's junior high school locker room, saying that they're women covered with tattoos and, all of their insanity. Isn't that amazing? Also, remember the Democrats said that we were going into a Trump recession. We're going into the recession. He's going to ruin the economy. It's terrible. And here is the headline on the economy. U.S. economy grows 4.4%, strongest expansion in 2 years. The U.S. economy has witnessed its fastest growth in a 2-year period, 4.4% annualized expansion rate in the third quarter of 2025. It takes a little while for their statistics to come together. The figure is an upgrade from the initial estimate of 4.3% growth and a significant jump from the previous quarter's growth rate of 3.8%. The data was released by the Bureau of Economic Analysis on Thursday, highlighting strong performance driven mainly by consumer spending. That means people have money in their pockets. And so, wait a minute. What happened to the Trump recession and the bubble? And it was all going to. And it was so we see crime rates plummeting, especially murder across the country, and we see the economy booming. Illegal aliens, and by the way, illegal immigration is illegal, and just taking months, self-deporting, about 1.9 million have self-deported. And well, you know what, but Barack Obama's the risen Yahweh to the left-wing radicals. Isn't that amazing? More Democrats, more murder. More Democrats, more gangs. Fewer Democrats, more good things.
Illegal immigration is illegal.
Yeah, I want to get to the Border Patrol Chief, Greg Bovino, being targeted by the communists. His life is in danger. His family's in danger. They lie about him. Want to hear what Gavin Newsom said about Greg Bovino being a Nazi, the governor of California. Going to have to sue these people into bankruptcy. There's a lot to take from him. To bankrupt him would take a lot of lawyers. Let's go back to the telephones. Let's go to JP calling from Fayetteville, Arkansas. JP, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
How are you, Chris?
Very well, buddy. Very well. What do you say?
Well, I had a random thought. I was listening to the AG from Arizona.
Uh-huh.
Did she justify the ICE shooting in Minneapolis?
Huh.
Because if you go by her standards,
she
said
Renee Good being shot by ICE after she crashed her car into an ICE agent. The ICE agent wasn't wearing a mask, was he?
No, but she said, if you feel that your life is in danger, you have the right to defend yourself.
To use lethal force. She said lethal force.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
true.
That
was a tacit. So tacitly, she approves of what happened.
If it were in Arizona, I'm not sure. I bet Minnesota doesn't have a stand your ground law, but it's a federal law enforcement agent who's being attacked with a motor vehicle, which is a deadly weapon, and that changes the law on everything, certainly. But you make a very interesting point, JP, because you're right. She said if you feel that your life is in danger, and she didn't say she opposes the stand your ground law, but she does because she's a leftist. She doesn't believe in self-defense. She believes only the state should have firearms, right? Right, JP?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, one other thing.
Yes, sir.
Nobody likes road construction, but everybody wants good roads. And what's going on in this country right now is road construction.
Road construction. Well, that's true. We do like good roads. And, yeah, you know, in Chicago around O'Hare Airport, there are two seasons, winter and construction. All right, so the Democrats spread a slanderous, cancerous lie that the Customs Border Protection Chief, Greg Bovino, wore a Nazi uniform. And he wears a Nazi uniform. That's what they're saying. And the idiot left-wing Democrat front group called Snopes, which is a fake fact-checking group. They're occasionally they get it right, but usually it's just whatever the Democrat Party wants. Unraveling claim Border Patrol Chief Greg Bovino wore a, quote, Nazi uniform, end quote. Bovino wore a long coat that many people online compared to those worn by Nazis in World War II. What, they wore long coats? I was looking at this and I saw, wait a minute, here's Adolf Hitler wearing suit pants and a jacket and a suit jacket, and that's what Joe Biden wore every day for 4 years. Joe Biden dresses just like Adolf Hitler. That's it couldn't be more ridiculous. But here are the clowns at Snopes. In January 2026, that's this month, a rumor circulated that U.S. Border Patrol Chief Greg Bovino wore a Nazi-style trench coat as he walked around Minneapolis with federal agents. Bovino arrived in the city after an Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent fatally shot a 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good, who was trying to run him over with her vehicle, but they left that out. In the city on January 7th, sparking protests and debate nationwide. The police officer had internal bleeding from her crashing her car into him, but never mind that. She was also there to block streets and obstruct federal law enforcement efforts to arrest child rapists who are illegal aliens, but never mind that. Photographs of Greg Bovino wearing a trench coat. Oh, my God, it's a trench coat. Drew comparisons to uniforms worn by Nazi leadership. And the Schutzstaffel, the SS, a paramilitary organization under Adolf Hitler. Snopes readers reached out to seek clarification on whether Bovino's outfit actually drew inspiration from Nazi uniforms. That's not really the question, whether the coat drew inspiration, but they just changed the terms. You see how that goes. And here he is, and he's wearing the uniform. And it's covered with official law enforcement stuff. First of all, it is a trench coat. It appears to be a woolen trench coat, double-breasted in the front, with somewhat broad lapels, and it has epaulettes. And on the epaulettes, it shows the rank that he carries as the chief of the Customs and Border Protection. And on each shoulder, there is a sewn-on patch. And it's the size of, a 14-year-old's hand. It's the size of a normal shoulder patch for law enforcement. And it says Customs and Border Protection. And then he has the chief insignia on his epaulettes. And the sleeves around the cuffs are kind of purple colored. It's obviously a police uniform overcoat for cold weather, you see. But then the Democrats call you a Nazi. And the governor of California, who flew over there to Davos. Why was he in Davos? He's got no reason to be in Davos, but he flew over there apparently on the private jet of George Soros' son, Alex Soros, who is he's got the governor of California on a leash because he's a plaything for the billionaires of the Democrat Party. And Alex Soros shows up with the Governor Newsom, as President Trump likes to call him. And here is Gavin Newsom in Davos, where he is accusing Greg Bovino, the chief of Border Patrol, is accusing him of wearing an SS uniform.
Masked men, guy Greg Bovino, dressed up. It's as if he literally went on eBay and purchased
He's not
SS garb. No. Greg Bovino, secret police, private army, masked men, knocking on doors, racially profiling American citizens.
That's right. He's masked men, SS uniforms, knocking on doors. First of all, I've never seen Greg Bovino wear a mask of any kind. He started out by slanderously saying that the chief is wearing a mask. He then slanderously said that they're going door to door, knocking on doors, looking for what is that? And profiling. Everybody profiles everybody else all day, every day. Everywhere you go, you're profiling everybody around you. In grocery stores, when you're driving, you're at intersections, stopped at a red light. You're profiling everybody. You're sizing people up is another word for profiling. And when you're looking for illegal alien gang members, just exactly who do you think you should be looking for? Swedes? What should be? Yeah, blonde-haired skiers? What should you be looking for? Isn't that amazing? So so there he is. He's wearing. He said he literally went online, right? Literally went online to buy an SS uniform. This is what he said. He should literally be sued civilly for $100 million, which I think he has. And the Democrats couldn't be bigger hypocrites. Greg Bovino is the chief of U.S. Customs Border Protection. He was asked about this. He went on the television on News Nation, on the News Nation channel, and he was talking to Leland Vittert.
That code is definitely a Border Patrol issue. I've had it over 25 years. I bought that as a young age in approximately 1999. But what's interesting here is, I was just talking about this with my staff a few minutes ago, is 5, 6 years ago, I wore that very coat, the one that he's talking about, to Commissioner Chris Magnus's coronation there at Customs and Border Protection headquarters in Washington, D.C., received nothing but compliments on that coat. That was during the last administration, as you know. Fast forward a few years to this administration, all of a sudden it's a problem.
Now it's a Gestapo, it's a SS uniform, it's a Nazi uniform. You're a Nazi, and it's he's had it since for more than 25 years. He's been in the business for a long time, and he bought it back then as winter uniform overcoat, and it's Border Patrol issue. So these child-raping Democrats, like the governor of California, Newsom, honestly, isn't that what we do? We just go around saying things about people, and just a minute. It's Border Patrol issue, and he says, literally, Border Patrol chief literally went online to buy an SS uniform and then parade around in the SS uniform, the Nazi uniform, when in reality it's U.S. government issue for Border Patrol uniform. And here's Snopes. They've got a picture of a Nazi wearing a Nazi uniform, and he's got a trench coat, and it's double-breasted. So every double-breasted trench coat is now a Nazi SS uniform.
Guy Greg Bovino, dressed up. It's as if he literally went on eBay and purchased SS garb.
Yeah, as if he literally went on eBay and purchased SS garb. He should be sued into bankruptcy for that kind of slander of a great American patriot and public servant, and isn't it amazing? And the clowns at Snopes, they just keep saying Nazi uniform over and over again. Photographs of Bovino wearing a trench coat drew comparisons to uniforms worn by Nazi leadership and the Schutzstaffen, the SS, a paramilitary organization under Adolf Hitler. And they say Snopes readers, who are left-wing idiots, said, hey, that's a Nazi uniform. It's American law enforcement uniform. But to the Democrats, who are busy murdering and looting and carjacking and everything else, aren't they amazing? The photographs and footage of Bovino walking around in the long trench coat were authentic. Yeah, who cares? It's what it is. And were not created using artificial intelligence software. Who cares? Nor manipulated using digital editing tools. Who cares? However, comparisons between his sartorial choices and actual Nazi uniforms were purely speculative. We were unable to prove, hard though they may have tried, whether he intended to draw Nazi comparisons by wearing such a coat. A 26-year-old, 27-year-old government issue coat for cold weather. And now, I got to tell you, and the Democrats will kill 40% of the black babies in the womb this year and harvest their organs. Just don't call them Nazis. They will firebomb, they already firebombed the Jewish governor's mansion in Pennsylvania, firebombed pro-Israel marchers in Colorado. They terrorized Jewish students at Columbia University and NYU and every place else. They, honestly, the Democrats ought to be wearing Nazi uniforms at this point. Certainly armbands, definitely armbands. But things are pretty bad out there, you know. I mean, with the lowest homicide rate last year since 1900, right? We've got Democrat Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett saying in her delusion there are black people hanging with nooses from trees all over the South today because Trump somehow. It is a very serious mental illness. The Democrat Party has it. And they have monkeypox. They got a lot of monkeypox, too. So the economy is booming, 4.4% growth, lowest homicide rate since the year 1900. Crime drops in every major category across the country last year. No problem. I also want to share with you a great story by John Lott. John Lott is a very, very bright researcher who writes about guns and crime in the United States and murder and things like that. And he came out yesterday with his research on President Trump's presidency, and I want to share that with you because it is something. In the meantime, let's go to the phones. Let's go to Larry, calling from the Commonwealth of Virginia, which has lost its ever-loving mind lately. Larry, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris, good morning. I just wanted to tell you I have it on good authority that the German-issued trench coats were the highest possible quality of the best wool because my uncle went ashore first wave on Omaha on D-Day, fought his way across France, and at the Battle of the Bulge, the GI guys were cold. They were freezing to death. And every chance they got to commandeer a Nazi trench coat, they took it because they were the very best quality. So, the guy's, he's just keeping himself warm.
And stylish, too, because, Hugo Boss was one of the designers of Nazi uniforms and still making $3,000 suits today. He's gone, but his company's still making these suits. And the Germans, they were used to fighting in cold weather. They had to take Moscow, and, so naturally they had to dress warmly for that. No doubt about it. But you're right, they did make they made high-quality weapons and, tanks and airplanes. The Tiger tank, the Messerschmitt 109, the 262, the first jet airplane. They had a lot of high-quality. They're Germans, they're not a lot of high-quality stuff. They make everything very well. And you're right, they're warmer and all that good stuff. But the thing is, Larry, is that this isn't, now had it been a German Army surplus coat, which, by the way, had been sold in Washington, D.C. stores for years and years. I remember them being in military surplus stores, the gray German heavy wool trench coats, and they're warm as heck, and because they make very high-quality stuff, as you said. Why would they put up with low-quality things? They're Germans, after all. But his coat, as he explained, was actually Border Patrol issue when he bought it. And does it have a similarity? Well, all trench coats have the same characteristics. They have 2 sleeves. They have shoulders. They typically have 2 rows of buttons in the front because they're double-breasted. They have very often broad lapels, and it's a trench coat. Humphrey Bogart wore them. Paul Henreid wore them. The good guys wore trench coats, too. They're just trench coats. I guess we should say to the Democrats, Larry, that sometimes a trench coat is just a trench coat.
Thanks, Chris. Love your show.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks. And it's just, that's an amazing story. It really is. But I gotta tell you, the John Lott story, which is in the New York Post, how Trump's ICE enforcement record blows Obama's out of the water by a lot. Now, and this is in how many people Obama killed, illegal aliens and all that. The media narrative against President Trump's efforts to enforce immigration law was on full display last week at a White House press briefing. Earlier, you were just defending ICE agents, that they were doing everything correctly, said Niall Stanage of The Hill, at challenged Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. 32 people died in ICE custody last year. 170 citizens were detained by ICE. That's U.S. citizens. And Renee Good was shot in the head and killed while trying to run over a federal agent and crashed her car into him. How does that equate to them doing everything correctly? That was the question, right? Now, John Lott is a great researcher, a scholar, and he goes into great detail here, and he tells you how NPR is lying to us at taxpayer expense and all that good stuff. And then he explains just how bad it was under Barack Obama, much worse. Let's set the baseline, John Lott says. Between the president's January 20th, 2025 inauguration, President Trump term number 2, and the end of November, Trump's administration arrested an extraordinary total 595,000 illegal aliens and deported 605,000. That's 10,000 more than were arrested. The 170 ICE detainees, U.S. Citizens, cited in Stanage's diatribe, included about 130 arrested for interfering with or assaulting officers. I talked about this yesterday, even before this story came out. According to the left-leaning ProPublica, very left-leaning, they spend their lives going after Justice Clarence Thomas. And only about 40 or so of those detained claimed to be U.S. citizens, accidentally or erroneously arrested by ICE. Just half of those people were held for more than a day. Any error is serious, but 40 mistakes out of 595,000 arrests. amounts to an error rate of 0.0067%, roughly one wrongful detention for every 14,925 arrests. But you'll never believe what happened in the Obama administration. That's right. In the Obama administration, how terrible. The last 2 years of Obama, you'll never guess, 2015, 2016, 263 mistaken arrests, 54 mistaken detentions. They booked them. 4 mistaken removals. They actually deported 4 American citizens. Oops. Sorry, maybe they had Spanish accents, brown skin, racists. The last 2 years of Obama's administration, they killed more people. They arrested more Americans. They deported more Americans wrongly. They did everything wrong at much higher numbers than the Trump administration has done in year one. But the news media didn't notice any of that. And when you explain that to them, they're incapable of comprehending, of understanding, of explaining, because they're Democrats. Yeah, that's right. So the Trump administration has deported no erroneous deportations. Barack Obama deported 2 U.S. citizens in fiscal year 2015 and 2 more U.S. citizens in 2016. It's good to be a Democrat, isn't it? Never hear about it. All the media lies and distortions bring disturbing real-world impacts, John Lott writes. Amid the drumbeat of slanted coverage, 57% of Americans now disapprove of how ICE enforces immigration laws. A Quinnipiac University survey found this month only 40% of us saying that we approve of ICE's actions because, again, it's the Democrat Party. A lie told once remains a lie. A lie told 1,000 times becomes the truth. And the Democrats, they go by that Nazi propagandist Joseph Goebbels axiom because, but the Obama administration, much, much worse in each of his last 2 years. And the Trump administration has, we're not deporting any. And, you got 600,000 people in a population. A couple of people are going to die of heart attacks and things, like George Floyd, who died of a heart attack.